Hey listeners, it's Paul Andriola here. Why not join our community at Small Cap Discoveries, where we offer our members direct access to some of the best microcap investment opportunities available. Our members are getting access to premium microcap financings, research reports, and direct access to management. Sign up today at www.smallcapdiscoveries.com.
There we go. Welcome, everybody, to another SED Zoom call. Today we have Sage Berryman, CEO of Aluula Composites. Aluula trades on the Venture Exchange under the symbol AUUA. Company has roughly 25 million shares outstanding and closed today around $1.50, so a 37.5-ish million market cap. It's September 3rd, 2025, and we want to welcome Sage here. Sage, thanks for joining us. Aluula is a company that we have been watching for a little while. It does some real neat stuff in terms of, call it nanomaterial. I'll let you make the proper description. But
Yeah.
thanks for joining us today. You got your presentation deck up, so I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you go.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'll give you guys a brief overview, and then I think it's most helpful just to do Q&A. And yeah, we've gotten to know each other a bit more over the last couple of months. It's been a really enjoyable discussion, and I think you guys first reached out to me just a couple months after I started, so it's nice to be able to kind of see those conversations through and have a chance to have this conversation today. So let me jump into the most exciting slide in every capital markets deck. Forward-looking statements, of course, everyone's familiar with these in our public company presentations. Aluula. So Aluula is any great technology story that starts in someone's garage with a couple of guys that are obsessed about performance. And so we had a chemist and a wind sports enthusiast, both of them. And what they wanted to do is create a material that was very light and very strong. And they did that in coming up with the Aluula material. And it was first used in wind sports. And we'll give some examples of that today. And we'll talk a little bit about how it's actually made. I get asked a number of times what the name Aluula stands for and where it came from. And it's actually a very small bone in a bird's wing that's responsible for flight. So it's small but very important. And I think when we reflect on who we are as a company, it's a really core part of our West Coast heritage, the fact that we're making products by hand, and the fact that we are embedding our products into really high-performing end products that are being sold by our brand partners. So we are one component of something that's quite important. And why now? So I think a lot of us have heard a number of conversations happening in the market around the evolution towards more sustainable materials. Aluula is currently a mono material, which makes it fully recyclable. And our objective is to get to the point where we are fully circular as well. And that's going to be a bit of a work in progress over time. But that pressure in the composites market means that people are desiring materials that are really light and really strong and also sustainable. And there used to be a trade-off where you had to give up some of your performance in order to have that sustainability. But a product like Aluula is really showing that that's not the case anymore. So we go to market with our materials with brand partners. So we are an ingredient brand. We're sold as part of the package. So we work with great brand partners like Arc'teryx, who will build a pack with our material, and then they'll co-brand it with us. So we'll have the Aluula brand on that product. It's really, again, that focus of being able to go to market, tell the sustainability story, and tell the high performance stories with our brand partners. So it's really a mutually beneficial relationship, and we prioritize kind of looking for the best brand partners in that. Here's one example of a kite designer who's been working with our materials. Again, in kites, we really saw that performance giving extra light, extra durable meant that people could do tricks that they hadn't done before. And one of the key aspects, of course, is with that mono material, we're also waterproof and UV resistant. And a key competitive differentiator is that there's no adhesives. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a second, where we sit with a competitive profile. We do have intellectual property around the production process, the manufacturing process, and the end product. Again, but all of our products are built with that sustainability as the core component. So sustainability is not just about what you do with the product at the end of its life. It's also about how easy it is to repair while you own it. what you can do in that repairing so that the product can last longer, and that product is actually designed to last in your ownership for a lot longer. So it's all the way from the production cycle through to the use and then to the end markets. From a moat perspective, we look at the competitive landscape, and Aluula really is the only product that is offering that level of high performance as well as the sustainability currently in the market. Again, most of the other ones are made with adhesives, and that adhesive is a different chemical composition that means it cannot be recycled at the end of its life. So Aluula is truly differentiated in this aspect, and as well, that enables us to be a higher performing material as well, because that glue doesn't degrade over time, which has been recognized through some of the media coverage that we've had and some of the awards that we've received as far as our material goes. And some of the end products as well for our customers. So what is it? It's actually a multi-layer composite where we have an ultra-high molecular weight core, which is really giving it the strength. And then we customize the stack up of different materials based on what the needs are. So you can be super light, or you can optimize for air holding and higher performance, more abrasion resistance. And we can make different products based on that IP that underlines it all. Again, with that core reminder that the benefit is really that balance between light and strong. So if you look at our core product kind of stacks, you see from a 25 grams per square meter up to a 220. So again, the products are quite light. All of them are heaviest right now at that 220 range, with different applications across a number of different industries. Our first market, as we talked about, was going into wind sports. We've moved into performance outdoor for bags and packs after that. And then we're also looking at commercial and industrial applications. There's a quote from one of the partners that we work with at Arc'teryx. And this presentation will be available on our website, of course, as well. This slide is really to show that we're not done yet. We've had a history of rapid development on our product side and our construction techniques. One of the key aspects with Aluula is that it allows for no-sew construction. So where seams used to be a weak point or allow water in, now you can weld that seam. It's actually stronger than the material itself at that seam point, and the waterproofness is even higher. So there's a number of different aspects that become possible with the use of our material. And we're seeing that resulting in a growth in the markets that we're going after. As I talked about, there's a number of different applications. So we're having to kind of be focused as to which markets we go after and in what order. Again, we speak about the performance outdoor, and then we also speak about the commercial and industrial areas, which we can get to in the Q&A. Since we've launched, we've brought on a number of new brand partners that are selling products made of Aluula materials. And this is a highlight list. Again, this is just the brands that have publicly announced. We have a number in the pipeline as well that haven't come to the public with their product yet. It is a long sales cycle. That's one thing that we talk about. And there's a little bit of lumpiness still within our revenue because of that length of sales cycle, but we do see a trend of revenue growing over time. We've also put a very strong focus in 2024 and into 2025 on our operational rigor in order to make sure that our gross margins can support the long-term growth of the business. And we've guided that we expect between a 40 and a 45% gross margin, which is up from 30% in 2023. And we're kind of continuing that trend as we go into this fiscal. This speaks to that sales pipeline that I spoke about earlier. So we look at customers as they move through. They'll sample, they'll build small products, they'll go into field testing, and then they'll make their first commercial launch order later on. So we look at that pipeline as being a fairly long cycle, usually on average about 2 years, but it's very sticky. So as the customers move through that pipeline, they do tend to translate into commercial orders, but it's still very early, as noted. Really, the wind sports market's the only one that we fully penetrated yet because it was our first market. And then bags and packs is kind of our second market that we've entered. We talked about capital structure a little bit. And again, this is available information on our website that was current as of a couple of days ago. And our executive and board of directors, we have a very strong team. We've been able to attract a very strong experience with Tyler, who's our polymer chemist, Sven, who's our chief commercial officer, and Brian, who's our CFO. All of us are here because we really believe in the product and have been able to build a great team to help execute. So at a high level summary, and I'm sure I spoke too quickly because I've had too much caffeine today. Aluula is really in a market that is changing and growing. People are pushing for light and strong materials that are also recyclable. We are seeing that growth in our portfolio. We have a truly differentiated product that has the IP behind it. We're building that IP portfolio. We're also building our brand value as we go, because those are two assets that I think are quite important to our future performance. As I noted, we are a growth-oriented company, but we're also driving gross margins right now in that 40 to 45% range. And I think that's it. So if I stop sharing, I can go back and actually have a bit more of a face-to-face conversation, and happy to take any questions.
You bet. Thank you so much. Reminder, everybody's listening, as always, you guys, if you have a question you'd like me to ask Sage, please use the chat function, and we'll get that question answered. So let's talk about the business model a little bit. So
Yeah.
like how do you guys generate revenue? Is this long-term contracts? How do you gauge in customers when it comes to R&D? That'd be another interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah. We've been quite lucky so far in that most of the customers that we have has been inbound interest. It's a very unique product, and the goal of adhering polyethylene to ultra-high molecular weight polyethylene has been thought about for a very long time. You can find academic literature that goes back a number of years, but nobody's been able to do it yet. So when the market, and these are mostly engineers on advanced concepts teams, heard that there was a company that was able to bind ultra-high molecular weight without adhesives, we generated a lot of inbound interest. So that inbound interest has resulted in us selling meters of material. So that's our business. We sell meters of material to brand partners who build products with it. They then sell those end products. So when we look for a great partnership, we look for someone who's very innovative, who's really pushing the boundaries on the sustainability side, who has a strong competency in research and development, because it is a new material and it does behave quite differently. And that process does involve some joint R&D in some circumstances as well, where there's that back and forth as to, what is the optimal performance that they're looking for. And so we've learned over time, I think, as most companies do in their early stage, you give a lot of your time away for free. We've learned over time that there's value in that, and we can have that joint R&D program more formalized. But effectively, our goal is to have more and more of these high quality premium brands adopting and buying meters of Aluula materials to sell products. Our goal is to have consumers walking into stores and saying, what do you have that's made out of Aluula? But ultimately, when you distill it all down, we sell meters of material. And that's where I think the balance of the industries that we go after is quite important. So we have a portfolio approach into the different categories, consumer facing brands in the performance outdoor space. And then on the other side, we also go after commercial and industrial applications, where it's probably larger meters of material, not as sexy. You're not doing the branding. It's not as much of a marketing initiative, but very, very important for the business and the future growth of the business.
Now, Sage, you guys are located in Victoria, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Correct?
The manufacturing capital of the
capital of the world, yeah.
Of course.
But you manufacture there, right? You manufacture in Victoria. Again, Victoria's not known for this sort of type of manufacturing, but what's it like to get staff? What's it like to get people? And this is obviously there's some smart people there. How do you go and attract smart people to business in Victoria?
Yeah, I think it's, I guess, two things. Victoria is a unique environment in that I'd say early career and towards the end of career tends to be attracted here. So we have a great pool of very experienced people. Like all of our board of directors, except one, actually live in Victoria. Because it's a fantastic place if you have the financial means to do so. But on the business side, we really have to be flexible. And we've done that in having people that, like Tyler, who's our chief scientific officer, he actually lives in Squamish and he'll commute to Victoria. We do a lot of our R&D activities in Squamish and in the Lower Mainland. Rec tech as a category on the west coast of BC is very strong. And to me, obviously, our manufacturing floor physical footprint matters, but for the rest of the team who's on the road, who's meeting with customers, I'm a little bit more agnostic on physical location, as long as we have enough time together as a team. So Yes, our manufacturing hub is absolutely here. That's very hands-on. That does not work in a remote application. But with some of our other positions, in order to attract and retain the right quality of people, we're flexible on those pieces. You have to be these days.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, as you said, you just recently joined the company. Maybe give us a little bit more of your background.
Yeah. Yeah, I joined February of 24. And for the last, I guess, about 7 years, I've been doing contract interim CEO work. So I'll come in a 3 or 6 month contract in something pretty intensive, usually brought in by the board. And then we'll work to kind of do a turnaround, a stabilization, and then find the new CEO and put them in place. My background, so I've been in the C-suite for probably about 15 years now. Mostly technology, some life sciences, actually some private equity, industrial groups. Being in Victoria, you end up being a little bit flexible. I came to Victoria in 2005 to help a pharmaceutical company go public. It's called Aspreva Pharmaceuticals, and we did a NASDAQ TSX listing and then sold for $1 billion in a couple of years. So I've been fortunate to work with a number of great companies and build some really good teams. And my personal perspective, I have the benefit of being able to be a little bit selective in what I work with. What excited me about Aluula is that it's the rare combination of a product where inbound interest is strong. At that point, we hadn't done any proactive capital markets, still have done very little. We hadn't done any proactive sales outreach, and the inbound interest was solid because the brand is interesting. And then you have the sustainability aspect over top of it. So to have something that's really that high performance and also environmentally focused and actually truly able to move to fully circular, like a lot of companies talk about circularity, but Aluula's got a product that makes that possible. That's a pretty exciting and unique combination. So I know a number of the board members, and I've worked with a few of them in the past, and so they've brought me into conversations. I love material science companies. I think they're really interesting, and I think it's an important time for it. So yeah, it was kind of the right combination of time and place and opportunity. And like I say, I've been thrilled with the team that we've been able to build as well. It's been change, a lot of turnover, and a lot of stabilization in 2024. But really, now we've got the right team in place in the right roles.
And what was the biggest challenge you faced, joining the company, and sort of what kept you up at night, and has that changed?
Yeah, I think this may be a personal bias, but RTOs are tough, right? Like,
absolutely.
I've seen a number of them, and when you take a company through a full IPO, it goes through an amount of rigor, and there's a standard financing stages and phases that the company goes through that pushes a maturation operationally. And when a company doesn't have that and it moves into a public vehicle through an RTO, it's always bumpy, right? You go from that entrepreneurial, really big ideas, throw a lot of stuff at the wall, to needing tight operational rigor, reporting structures, governance, those types of things like that. And that phase of maturation ends up being crammed into a very short time cycle. So that means business systems and processes, governance, reporting, financial reporting, stabilizing that, while also ensuring that the culture is still innovative and startup. And I think that was really, it's not a new challenge at all. I've seen a lot of early stage businesses that go through that, where you have a really entrepreneurial founder, and then a bunch of other people who are kind of following behind that. But in order to have the company moving as quickly as we need to move, because the industries we are participating are moving quickly, we have to have a startup mentality. We have to have a culture that is hungry. We have to have a culture of high performers, and we have to have a culture that's really invested in changing a landscape that doesn't want to be changed, right? We're competing against materials that have been there for 20, 30 years in a lot of circumstance, and they've got solid market presence, and a lot of them almost are commodities, right? They're high price premium products, but they're in commodity industries. So if we're going to take these players out, we're going to have to be aggressive with it, and we're going to have the right team of aggressive, high performing people that don't sleep at night because they're so excited by this. And that cultural shift takes time, and that means turnover, that means change, that means instability in the meantime. But you start to see it, you can feel it internally when that grounds and that stability starts to form with the right team and systems and processes and reporting structures and all of that. And it's not a big team, right? We're 20 people. But because you're 20 people, you need to have the right 20 people, because one person can shift a culture in that type of environment.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're, predominantly the bulk of the business right now is in sort of water sports, kite sailing and sales and things like that. What
Yep.
kind of what's that addressable market look like? And are you the dominant player? Are you still scratching for market share? What can you tell us there?
Yeah, I'd say we're fairly penetrated in kites and wings. So you're right. I would think of wind sports as a couple different areas. Kites and wings being the recreational use. It's not a fast growing market, especially post COVID, right? Like a lot of the other recreational sports industries that overstocked and ended up with cash flow challenges. And I think we've seen some, not attrition, but maybe back to pre COVID numbers just. It's not showing the CAGR that we like to see in a market that we're going after hard. But we've got good penetration. We've got a great stable customer base, and we have all the brands we want to be working with. So I'd say in the wind sports space, we've acquired all the customer relationships that we want. There's no other ones that we want to go after. We are a high-priced performance product. We've helped shift the price point of products in the industry. If they have an Aluula product in, the price tag has gone up. They've had a new kind of high price threshold for that. So we need to work with the right performance brands, and we're fairly well penetrated in that. It's nice, stable. There's some room to grow as to adopting more of our materials in other product lines, but it's still in that high price, top of the line categories for the brands that we're working with. Sailing is still very early for us. So sailing does offer a lot of opportunity, and it's, I'd say, just getting started for us. So I'd say there's more growth there. As an industry itself, it also is not a hyper growth industry. The industries that I'm really excited about, so let's consider those kind of our stable but very important baseline, right? And then I put bags and packs kind of in a similar area. The recreational sports and performance outdoor category is growing. It's showing good CAGRs. The environmental aspects matter. But we sell meters of material. And when we look at a bag, there's 3 meters of material in that bag. Other categories like the commercial and industrial applications, those are really exciting ones for growth, and they're much earlier stage. So these are new areas that we're entering into. But I'll give one example. We've talked about a company called Airseas, which is a French company that is putting kites on the front of cargo ships. And they've disclosed that their kite is 600 square meters, and that's made with more than 4,000 meters of Aluula material. So a product like that in an industry like that, in that industry, the decarbonization of shipping is growing very aggressively. There's new regulations coming in place to decarbonize. Their goal is to show a 20% reduction in fuel use by using wind power in these cargo ships. That industry is showing like a 75% year-over-year growth, right? It's very aggressive. And it can be a very large market. So when I look at that portfolio approach as to which industries we go after, we kind of keep that in mind. We've got some earlier stuff, stable, not as high growth. That enables us to go after other industries like the decarbonization, go after something like defense, which we all know takes longer to penetrate into. But that's offset by the nearer term cash generation of some of the other markets, right? So we can take some swings at these larger markets that will consume more material, but will take longer time to penetrate and have higher growth rates. So it's a balancing act in that.
Let's talk about stock a little bit. 28.7 million shares outstanding. Maybe give us a breakdown of sort of the shareholder base. How many shares are owned by insiders and any other significant players?
Yeah, I'd say close to 50% is still insider held. And I think it's maybe just under, I think it's about 48% as of the last disclosures that went out. So still very tightly held. That's board and executive team. And I think the other is fairly broken up into the market itself. So there's not any large positions kind of individually that are disclosed within that. So the largest is still the board and executive team with about that 50%.
Perfect. And as far as resources, cash, you're still a young company, I imagine burning cash right now, but what's your cash position look like, and are you looking for money?
Yeah, of course, we're cash builds our inventory. So we are just in time manufacturing because of a cash flow constraint, right? And given the fact that we're in an early stage business and we don't have the ability to lever, we can't borrow, we can't have a line, we are living off cash to sell to our customers. And that is challenging, right? Because you're making decisions based on how quickly you can get materials here that are already sold. And that tension, I think, creates a very healthy operating principle because you're very cognizant of cash, but it doesn't always feed exceptional growth. And I think that's the balance that we're always going to have to find is, we are first to market. We know that people are chasing us and trying to figure it out. We are building and establishing that brand. But we will, any good market is healthy if it has competition, right? And we do anticipate that there will be. So I think that eventually, in order to help facilitate and accelerate that growth, some additional cash is probably a good thing for a business like this. We haven't planned any financing and the board hasn't taken any decision on that. But I think, again, alleviating any cash flow constraint always helps that acceleration. But right now it is very much, I think in our last Q2 numbers, I think we had about 3 million in cash and cash equivalents. That's feeding our inventory, right? That's feeding our supply chain and manufacturing for orders. So.
And Sage, if you had more money, is that where you'd allocate the bulk of it, is into more inventory, or is there other initiatives that you'd look at if you had more capital?
Yeah. I love this game. Anyone talk about having more capital? I've got lots of ways.
Absolutely.
Well, we've also talked about in the market. Aluula sells right now at a 1 meter width, and that's not a standard width in the market. So we've talked for a while about our desire to move to a 1.5 meter width. And that's more in line with an industry standard. What that means is that our customers are able to nest their patterns more efficiently on the materials that we sell to them. So for our customers, it's quite desired. For a number of industries, it's absolutely necessary. For sailing, for the decarbonization, as we get out of R&D and move into commercial, it has to be at 1.5. When we look at expanding our production to 1.5, it's not just a matter of making our rolls longer. When you get up to 1.5, the rolls are a lot larger. They can't be handled in the same way. You need equipment, you need different warehousing, you need a bunch of different supply chain stuff to deal with it. So I think that's going to be a growth constraint that we look at. And I think it's an opportunity. We've talked about it, that we've been working on 1.5 development, not only to get to a wider width, but also to improve our production, to improve our quality, to improve our consistency. And that's been going on since I've been here. Really, we kind of have really dug into that new production methodology, and we're making some really good progress. So I think there will be an evolution where the business demand helps to justify that requirement for an evolution in our manufacturing, because the technology that we have and the capital equipment that we have in the back there is old, right? And it doesn't owe us anything. It's been well utilized. But as we continue to grow and expand, that's probably going to be one of the key areas. Working capital, always working capital. And then if you look at our financial reporting as well, you'll see that in order to keep our margins where we have, we've pulled back on every lever that we can. So that means on OpEx, we've hardly spent anything on marketing. And, that's okay at the stage and phase that we're in, because we can pull those levers. And when we know where we're going to put cash, I'm always going to put it towards inventory to satisfy a customer versus towards marketing. So if that's I won't call it a disposable item, because Sven wouldn't like that very much, and that's not fair to marketing or our commercial team. But to have a little bit more autonomy and capital to be able to push those areas of the business harder, I think we would amplify what we're able to do today. I think what we're able to do today is pretty impressive, given how little we're spending on those areas. But it's just doing more of what we're already doing.
Fantastic. Okay, well, listen, we've got some questions in from the audience. Why don't we tackle some of these questions, and then we can get back to my little questions here. Okay, a question here. It's simple. What is the 10-year vision for the company? Where do you expect this or want this to be 10 years from now?
Mhm. That's an exciting one. Um, I would like us to have replaced some of the large incumbents. I think Aluula has the possibility of really shifting the landscape and becoming a for high performance outdoor products. Did I freeze? You freeze?
Yeah, I think we're both freezing here.
Oh,
We'll give it a
there we
sec.
are.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, let's see if it catches up a little bit here.
Can you hear
Okay.
me,
I can hear you. It's
Paul?
a good thing this is recorded. We'll figure this out here. I tell you what, let me do this. See, freeze up some bandwidth. Are you still there, Sage? Okay, we'll give it a sec here. All right, you still there, Sage?
Yeah, I'm here. I turned my camera off as well.
Yeah, that's what I've done as well. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we got that. Let me see what's next here. Okay, of the variables that are highly important to your business to attain a very solid 5 or 10-year outcome, what is within your ability to control and what is beyond your ability to control?
I think the people who know me think that I try to probably control too many
Control
things.
everything.
No, but I think there's a humbleness of recognizing that there's absolutely some things we can't control. I mean, look at the tariff situation as a perfect example, right?
Sure.
So let's use that as an example. What we can do is we can put A/B suppliers in place to manage geographic risk, to manage supplier interruptions, to manage quality concerns, but we can't control for tariffs. We can't control for geopolitical environment and things like that. So the things we can control are our team, our culture, servicing the hell out of our customers, working consistently to improve our manufacturing process and our quality, really being the best partner that we can be to work with. Those things we can control. And I think recognizing that we're not a fit for everybody, and that's okay. And I think the historical approach has been a little bit more of a scatter approach to try and get it in everybody's hands. And I think what we've learned over time is that we do really have to focus on where we are a fit and who we are a fit with and really excel at that versus trying to be everything to everybody. We are a unique material. We look and feel different, and it's not a fit for everybody. But the people who it is a fit for, it really does excel. And so I think that gets into the control variables that you can control.
Yeah, yeah. No, well said. With all the possible use cases, where are you focusing the most of your efforts? And the second part of that is like, what is exciting you the most in terms of some new business opportunities?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, and we've disclosed this in our public disclosures, that obviously the performance outdoor is still a focus. That's bags and packs, tents, and the wind sports applications, including sailing. And then in the performance, in the commercial and industrial, rather, we've talked about the defense for shelters as being a key area of interest. Arctic sovereignty is very important right now with NATO countries, and this material performs far better in the cold than the competitive options that are out there. So that's really exciting. And I think what our commercial team has to do is be able to find that continual balance in that portfolio of, as I spoke about at the beginning, we have a long sales cycle. So the areas that we can directly impact revenue in the next 12 months, we're already in relationship with those customers, right? The earlier customers that are building the pipeline, which we aren't able to fully disclose because again, it's confidential development for them, that's quite exciting. That's an exciting group of customers that we're working with, but they can be at various stages to commercialization. So I think those market priorities, we have to constantly say, what is going to generate that near-term revenue for us? And then what also is building that long-term lots of growth and establishing us in those markets that we're going after in a real way. And that's a balancing act that we have to find.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, question on the product itself. How will Aluula and its partners handle in-field repairs since the materials aren't sewn or glued?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess it depends on what field you're in and what tools you have. So some of our customers are offering patch kits, but I think that the ability to kind of weld on and have the strength. So when you get a hole or a tear in Aluula material, it's very hard to propagate it. So if you ever get your hands on some sample material, and if you haven't, give us a call. We can send out some samples. You put a hole in it, you can't pull it apart, right? You can't propagate that. So when you weld it, you get that original strength of the material back on, assuming that weld is done properly. So there's kind of those two pieces. One is the quick and dirty of a patch that works. And then the two is, can you do a heat-based weld to get the material performance back up to where it was preceding the injury to the material itself? That would be harder to do in field unless you had some specialized tools.
Raw materials, like, is it difficult to source raw material for this this product?
No, in the fact that they are commodities,
Okay.
but yes, in the fact that we have some specificity in those input materials that is unique to us, that has taken us a little bit to dial in. So we've invested in the relationships with our vendors in order to get to that material that works specifically for us. So commodity-based materials, easy to access, but the tailoring and getting it to the quality and the consistency that we require with a degree of specificity, there's some tweaking in that we do that's our secret sauce. So as I mentioned, we have A/B suppliers for most of our key inputs, and that's just risk management in my mind.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, question from Jeff. He says, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most complex, how do you view the goal of scaling from the present sub 1 meter roll to industry standard 1.5? Additionally, the high crinkle aspect of your product, how will that change, if at all, if you manage to scale to 1.5 meters?
Yeah. So I'll start with the last part first. Polyethylene has a unique hand feel. And if you look at our intellectual property, we talk about polyolefins more broadly. So we have the ability to move into other polyolefins. I'm not a chemist. I'll disclaim that right away. That's about
You
the
say that
extent
so
I'm
well
gonna
that
go
it's,
to.
you could easily get away with it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. If Tyler was here, he'd correct me, or my son who's studying chemistry too. He always shakes his head. But so the combination of materials into the composite for our core material is always going to have that crinkle. And that crinkle, in my mind, is actually something that we should lean into as opposed to trying to solve. So I always push back and say, why fit in when you can stand out, right? Like, we are not nylon, we are not polyester. And if you want nylon or polyester, buy nylon or polyester. If you want a super high performance material that is absolutely going to look different, it's going to feel different, and you're going to walk down the street and someone's going to go, is that an Aluula bag? Because you see it instantly, then buy Aluula, right? It's a very different product. And I think as you move into other markets, that hand feel starts to matter more. So is there an evolution where we can move into markets where, you know, hunters for noise that matters, or shelters where noise matters as well? I think that the evolution of the product can address that by changing the structure of the material with the layups that we do. So right now, yes, the crinkle is absolutely part that we think is a really unique aspect of how Aluula looks. And it isn't going anywhere. And we're probably going to lean more into it, if anything. You know, when we talk about being an ingredient brand, a lot of times you don't see it, right? Someone wears a helmet that has a yellow sticker on it that says MIPS. That's the only thing that you know that there's MIPS inside of that helmet. Aluula has a real differentiator in that you can see our product. You can tell. And I actually would like to lean into that more. I would like everybody to know instantly that it's an Aluula product without us having to have a logo anywhere on it. Because in my mind, the look of nylon, the look of polyester is known. That's a commodity market. It's known exactly what it should look like. Ours does not look like that. It's handmade. There's color variations in it. It's unique. There's a definite unique aesthetic to it.
Yeah, fantastic. And the other part of the question, the 1 to 10 or 10 to 1, in terms of the complexity of the moving to 1.5 meters.
Yeah, and I think I addressed this a little bit earlier. If it was just a matter of making a larger roll, that's easy. We did that, and we've done that, right? We produced 1.5 meter. But what we did is we actually pulled back and said, this should be a stepwise improvement of our entire process. And for that, it has been a longer and more extensive process.
Mm-hmm.
It has been almost a back to drawing board. And I think part of that is also necessary with the evolution of the team, because when you had the first team doing it, it was, what can we kind of bolt together quick and dirty? I call it craft brewing, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what can we just get there and get it working?
Mm-hmm.
Now we are selling kites that are on the front of cargo ships.
Mm-hmm.
We're selling product that is in high risk, important locations, and the consistency of that absolutely matters. And as we move forward in the manufacturing rigor towards ISO standards and those types of things, we need to upgrade our manufacturing to match that. So what we've kind of done is basically a fresh start. Let's pull back. And it used to be in our deck as Aluula 2.0. That's what we were talking
Mm-hmm.
to. Like, what is the evolution, that next phase of manufacturing for us that gets our quality and our consistency that much better, and our margins, right? That's the objective, to improve our margins as well, and enables us to go longer. So longer, no problem. We've done longer, we can do longer. But the larger question of, we also want improvements in those other aspects, quality, consistency, less wastage, better efficiencies. That's been a bit of a back to drawing board, but we've made great progress, and we're making great progress there.
Gotcha. Okay, question from Jennifer. She says, can your fabric be incorporated into Gore-Tex jackets? I was intrigued by what you said about eliminating seams. My old jacket now has leaky seams. It would be fabulous if seams could be removed.
Yes, we agree. So our material currently excels exceptionally at its waterproofness, not its breathability. So we have had companies that are talking about it, but it would be a design decision. Welded seams will make a big difference in most of the markets we play in. Number one, you're going to save weight. Number two, you're going to improve strength in those seams, which are usually the weak point. And then you're also going to have that waterproofness. As I'm sure a number of the people on the call know, Gore-Tex jackets are multi-layer, right? There's a breathable membrane in that, and then there's an outer face layer. And those components come together to make that product do what it does. And I think for Aluula's aspect right now, the aspect that we do exceptionally well is that outer waterproof layer. So that is PFAS free, mono material, recyclable, fully weldable. So yes, totally agree. Where it would not perform at its current point is on the breathability, right? Its goal is to stop everything, and it does that very well. So it's those pieces of it will work, and those welded seams are exceptional in that type of a use. Welded seams or the no-sew construction starts to open up a whole bunch of different categories, because you could do thermoforming for shoes. You could look at all different types of structures based on that not needing to be welded, right? Or sorry, not needing to be sewed.
Sewn, yeah.
You can still sew it, and customers do. But I think the evolution will be a big differentiator that the no-sew construction is enabled by Aluula.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, another question. 3M once pursued a patent infringement case against a fast-growing smaller competitor. Do 3M or any other similar large companies currently have a product line that could plausibly give rise to patent infringement lawsuit, even if such a claim might ultimately prove unfounded?
Not yet. And I realize that's a semi-vague statement, but I did a fairly extensive amount of due diligence looking at this and the patent estate. Our competitors, Dyneema, so Dyneema is owned by Avient. They have an ultra-high molecular weight, and they are sold into the tent and pack markets. They do have IP in the space. The IP that they have is related to the fiber of ultra-high molecular weight polyethylene itself, which is now more of a commodity, right? It's kind of evolved to the point that it's available in lots of areas. So I don't feel a current risk, given that the areas that we're playing in our IP is quite unique. And that's, you never say never on these types of things, and I'll take every superstitious knock on wood that I can. But no, as of right now, that is not a concern for me. We're not close enough in anyone's world that we're crossing over into that area. You'll see Dyneema and Honeywell, who both sell ultra high molecular weight polyethylene predominantly into the defense space for body armor. It's not a space that we've touched because the depth of patent state within that area. But again, their products are either glued or multi-layered. They don't have the ability to fuse them like Aluula does.
Right. Wow. Okay, interesting. Okay, Jeremy says, have the materials been checked for toxicity? I understand that another popular high-tech material, Gore-Tex, is made of the same stuff as Teflon and highly
Mhm.
toxic.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, in that sustainability aspect, this is a absolutely key thing. We are 100% polyethylene, and that means it's PFAS free, so no forever chemicals on Aluula's material. And this, when I talked in the beginning about the fact that the regulatory landscape is changing, this is a big part of it, right?
Mhm.
You're not going to be able to access these materials, the old school materials anymore. France has legislated that change. You can't buy products with PFAS anymore. So Aluula is very simplistic from a
Mhm.
chemical structure. Again, I'll get out of my depth there pretty quickly, but it is 100% polyethylene, completely PFAS free.
Fantastic. Okay, question from Brad. He says, do you sell into either the mass market drone market or high-end specialty drone market for military use? Are you
Um,
in are you selling into the military at all?
We have not disclosed any brand partners that have commercialized products in the defense industry.
Mhm.
As I've noted before, we have a number of R&D projects or companies who have bought small amounts of materials that are testing and prototyping. And some of those areas, again, the question is very valid in that anywhere that you would need really light and really strong materials, it starts to
Mhm.
become quite attractive. So I think those market uses where that durability and that strength matters, they're comfortable to pay the premium price that Aluula's product
Mhm.
is. So I think that it's a good assumption that there's probably some market
Mhm.
viability in a market like that.
Yeah, Sage, parachutes. Is your product used for parachutes of any kind?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, Deep says, how big is the market you're targeting in dollar amounts? Maybe can you give us a sense of dollar figures in some of the addressable markets?
Yeah. And I purposely haven't disclosed total addressable market because of a couple aspects, and I'll kind
Mhm.
of lay that out a little bit. Um, we can look at the total addressable market in the performance outdoor category. We can look at it in the wind sports, in the sailing, in the defense shelters, in the
Mhm.
decarbonization. But each of those, then your assumptions that you would make to deduct what of that is specifically the material is challenging to
Mhm.
do.
Right,
So
right.
one of the things that we do talk about is like the high performance composites market. So let's go the highest level we can,
Mhm.
right? The high performance composites market has about a 9% CAGR. It's a $30 billion annual market. And the top priority is light, strong, and sustainable. So if we hit those criteria, that's going to open up a market. And those
Mhm.
markets that you then get into, automotive, defense, a lot of those areas where fuel savings matter by having something lighter. That strength matters because it's more durable and it lasts longer.
Mhm.
And then you get into these sub markets that we're talking about. And it's challenging, as I said, to say, here's the 6 total addressable market sizes. Here's what percent of that product roughly is materials, right? So a
Mhm.
windsurfing, a kite or
Right,
wing is sold, what percent? And that would be competitive information if we tell them how much of our material they're buying for that specific application.
right.
So when we give numbers, we want to be really comfortable that um, it's large. There's a
Mhm.
large addressable market, and
Mhm.
I don't want to throw out ridiculous numbers that don't have clarity as to our share of market and in what
Mhm.
time frame that we're going after. So as you've seen, we don't give guidance, and I realize that's a challenging position for investors that are coming in right now.
Mhm.
We are early stage, and until we're stable and predictable enough, and we
Mhm.
understand within a very tight range what the business is looking like, um, we haven't talked to that. So again, they're large markets. Some are growing faster, some are growing slower, some were fully penetrated, like the wind sports, some we've hardly touched. So if we look at the defense shelters market globally, that's a very large market, and we're haven't taken any market share within that
Right.
market yet. So it's
Gotcha.
I know a frustratingly vague answer, but it depends. It's big and it
It's
depends.
big, big. That's
Yeah.
the way to answer it. It's big. Yeah. Okay, last question from the audience here. Jeff asks, your current royalty structure based on revenue to the founder is not fully disclosed. How should investors view this as you scale the business and trying to model your potential profitability going forward?
It's accounted for in our COGS guidance. I guess that's the easiest way to summarize it. So yes, we have filed a copy of the agreement, but we've redacted the confidential information within that agreement. But our COGS guidance is 40 to 45% gross margin. That royalty is accounted for within that.
Gotcha. And I lied. There's one more question from the audience.
Anything?
Shai says, I would appreciate learning more about the history of how the material was first developed or invented. And does a similar product exist in Asia?
To the last part, not that we know of. We haven't seen or heard or come across anything. As I talked about, it is hand manufactured. It's labor intensive. It's complicated. It's an art and a science. So it's not easy to replicate. And there's an extensive amount of trade secret in there as well. So we hope that'll hold people off for a while because they haven't figured it out yet. And then the first part of the question was history.
The history, yeah.
Yeah, so Peter Barang, who's a board member, I think he's in his 80s now. He's a windsurfer. He's still out there windsurfing.
Wow, nice.
He's a chemist and an entrepreneur. He's one of those guys who has been involved in multiple entrepreneurial ventures that have been quite successful. And he's friends with Richard Mycroft, who is a professional windsurfer as well. And they were just obsessive about performance. How can we make something lighter and stronger? And trial and error, multiple trial and error. And they came up with this idea. So it was actually Peter Barang's invention, the process itself. And that's who we have the licensing agreement with. He is still a board member. And it was originated then. And then a really great team of people came together early stage to help make it real. Because having an idea that you tinker around with for years in your garage and think it's feasible is not the same as manufacturing a product. And that those first products were put into ocean rodeo kites and wings, where people were doing tricks and winning competitions that they were never able to do before. So then everybody went, whoa, what's this? And then people started paying attention to say, how else could this be used? And that's one of the exciting aspects too. We get a lot of calls of, I'll give an example. We had a gentleman who called a physician and he said, I'm working on a stent trial and I saw the bag released from DB Journey. Can you tell me more about the material? And we did. And he said, I'd really like to trial this in a stent. We don't have the funds right now to pursue that as an industry. But they use Gore-Tex currently in that application. They want to find if there's any alternatives to replace it. And these types of market applications, we have no idea about, right? There's a lot of different utility for the material. What we're doing early is focusing on beachhead markets that we can make a difference where there's no other material that can do what we can do. And we'll go after those markets in a very focused way. But there's a lot of other applications for our product that we're just continuing to learn about.
Now, was it invented in Victoria or Squamish? I know Squamish is crazy for parasailing. Victoria, okay, fantastic. Yeah. So out in the water there, no doubt, a lot of trial runs of product.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sage, this is great. Listen, as investors, and we're watching your business, what do you think are the important catalysts or maybe even metrics that we should pay the most attention to?
I'm a firm believer in doing what we say we're going to do and delivering as a business. That operational rigor matters. I think also, if you look at our historical disclosures, we talk about 1.5 being important because that's going to open up tent market and sailing market. We talk about some of these key milestones in the business. And I think that comes down to us as a team continuing to execute on what we said we were going to execute. And as I said, 2024 was about stabilization. 2025, we now have the right team, and it's about starting to put that momentum and that kind of operating rigor into more of an accelerant. And that's an exciting time, but I think it's we need to continue to deliver what we say we're going to deliver. And as an investor myself, that's what I want to see us be able to do, because that makes it tangible.
Gotcha. And then just open-ended question, is there anything we missed, or is there a key message you want to make sure everybody walks away with today?
No, I think you guys did a very comprehensive hit of all the top areas.
The important stuff.
Covered it well, Paul.
Good. Well, how do you want to sum it up? What's a good takeaway for everybody today?
Walk into your local outdoor retailer and say, what do you have that's made out of Aluula? I've heard it's an amazing material. And if you don't have anything yet, tell me when you're going to have something.
Fantastic. I know we've got a lot of sort of outdoor enthusiasts, so maybe we'll get a few
Perfect.
guys doing that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been great. Okay, we've been speaking with Sage Berryman, CEO of Aluula Composites. As I mentioned earlier, symbol is AUUA on the Venture Exchange. Sage, this has been great. We appreciate the time you spent with us, and we certainly look forward to the next time we can catch up.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And thank you, Trevor, as well. It's great to have the time with you guys today. Really appreciate you making it happen. And thanks to everyone online as well. Great questions.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, and bye for now.
Yeah, bye.
Okay.